Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this rather special webinar that Dan is going to be presenting about your upcoming ushering module. And it looks like this one is going to be from the coordinator's perspective. And I think there's going to be another one from a user perspective. The agenda for this meeting, which should take about an hour, is we'll do a little introduction here, take care of some housekeeping. Then Dan will be talking about ushering for members, focusing on the profile screen, and then ushering for coordinators, talking about the venue versus company and performances, and then we'll have a Q&A. Let's take care of a little housekeeping. All the phones are muted with the exception of mine and Dan's. Any questions that you have should be entered into the chat window. And by all means, ask questions along the way. I'll try to watch the chat session, and if there's something that it's important for me to break in on Dan's presentation, I'll stop him and see maybe he'll drill down on something. Otherwise, at the end of his presentation, Dan will review the questions and try to answer them. Now, we're going to have a recording of this webinar, and it'll be available in a couple of days. It'll be both on the ClubExpress YouTube channel, and there will likely be a link to that on your organization's website. So now everybody should be seeing Dan's smiling face. And so Dan, why don't you give a little introduction and then go share your screen.
Thank you, Alan. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I see we have about half of the Saints venue and company coordinators on the call. Frank said there's about 75 of you, and we have about 30, 32 people on the call, plus obviously Alan and myself. So we'll go through what we've been working on for the ushering module, give you a sense of how it works. I do want to emphasize that it's not yet finished. There's a few things that we're still working on, and obviously the committee that's been managing this project needs to review it, do some internal testing, and there may be problems that appear, and of course they'll let us know and we'll fix those immediately. But in the meantime, I want to show you what we've put together in conjunction with the Saints Technology Committee. Now, if people have suggestions or criticisms or concerns about how things have been implemented, discussing those during the Q&A may not be the most appropriate thing to do. It would be better if you were to contact or email Frank or Marvin or the committee members, let them know what the issue is, and then of course we can sit down and they can sit down and discuss it with us, and we can then work out if we need to fix something in the system or if we need to do a change order of some kind. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. So we're first going to look at how the basic ushering is going to work for members, and I'm going to show you the profile screen, the custom message from the board, how you can filter by different assignments, and then the button that allows you to request an ushering assignment. So let's switch back to the Saints website, and I have a special login here, which I'm going to use. And this one logs me in as a test user. Now, there will be a couple of different ways of accessing the ushering functionality. One of them is that you'll be able to go to your profile screen, and on the profile screen there will be an ushering option right here. And when I click on that, it's going to show me a special screen. Now, there'll be a way at the top for the Saints to communicate messages to members about, upcoming ushering assignments, or be, reminders about things like that. So those will appear in this panel. So below that is a filter, and the filter actually allows you to see two different views. The first view is any upcoming ushering assignments. In this case, the test user doesn't have any. But for each of those, you'll see the production, the venue, the date, your report time, dress code, and your status. Now, the status could be that you've applied to usher, or it could be that you've been approved. and those are the status values that will appear here, and there'll be a couple of options in the maintain column as well. There'll also be a slightly different filter that allows you to see past ushering assignments. And the past ushering assignments, have a slightly less information, but you'll be able to see all of the ushering that you've done previously. Now, there is a button here that says request assignment, and it allows you to jump into the whole process where you can request a specific ushering assignment. Now, before we look at that, there is another way of getting to this particular screen, which is right here. And that is that I have added to the menu temporarily, for the purposes of the webinar only, I've added a choice at the bottom of the Saints menu called Ushering. As soon as the webinar is done, we're going to take that off until the system is ready to be deployed and announced to the members. And that may not be until next month, when we are able to do a webinar for Saints members. When I click on Ushering, I basically get to the same screen. And this is the request assignment screen. Now, I can filter in lots of different ways. I can filter by title, and it will find the value anywhere in the field. So, for example, if I type LUS and click search, it finds secrets and illusions, LUS right here. I can also filter by category, and you'll notice that you can check off more than one category. So I could look, for example, for both comedies and musicals at the same time, or I can check all of them, or I can check none of them and turn that off. Same with venue. I can also search by venue. So, for example, anywhere in the field, if I type in bio and click search, I'm going to find 2 productions that happen to be at the Biograph. I can also search by region, and these are the different regions. If I want to do an ushering assignment in the northwest suburbs, for example, I can search by region. Let's do northwest suburbs, and it will find, in this case, no productions currently in the northwest suburbs. I can filter by date range, and there is a little calendar option here. And I can also filter by time slot. So every production is categorized, whether it's a morning production or a performance, lunchtime, matinee, which is generally 2, 3 o'clock, late afternoon, which would be a 5 o'clock, something like that, evening, 7, 7:30, or maybe there are late evening performances, 9 or 10 o'clock, comedy clubs, things like that. So we can search in lots of different ways, and you can see the different productions here. So there are some productions that are listed, and what I could do is click on one of those productions, and in this case, we can then filter by performances. So if I click search, I see some details about this production. So there's a description, there'll be details about the venue, the address, a Google link so that you can find out exactly where the venue is and get directions. And in this case, we can see that there are 4 performances for this particular production, and each of those performances has 6 open slots. Now, if I click request, in this case, the performance has been configured to allow me to register, but also the coordinator has enabled an option that would allow me to bring another member with me. So if I say me and click save, now I can see that I'm assigned for this performance. The number of slots open is 5, and an email will go out. The emails are not done yet. That's one of the things that's not ready yet. But an email will go to the coordinator for this particular production saying that I've requested one of those ushering slots. That coordinator then has the ability to accept or decline the ushering assignment. And then an email would go back to me saying that I've been accepted or declined. And if it was declined, there would be a reason. And those emails will include all of the details about the performance, the reporting time, the dress code, the venue, a Google Maps link, all of those details will be there. Now, if I was to request an assignment with another member, the system will prompt for the member number. And so the way we've decided to implement this is that if you often usher with somebody else, you need to know what their member number is. And that's really the only way that you can invite them to usher along with you. Now, member numbers are visible on the profile screen. If I click on profile, every member can see their member number right here at the top of their profile screen. And so they can give it to somebody else if that other person is going to sign up for them. So that's a very quick look at the what's been built so far in the productions, the performances, and actually applying for an ushering assignment. What I'm going to do now is log out, and I'm going to log in using a different test account. And this is the user. And I'll just enter the password here. And I'm now logged in as someone who is a venue coordinator. Now, there are two types of coordinators supported in the system. Those people who coordinate based on venues, and there are some people who coordinate based on companies that use lots of different venues. So in this case, I'm a venue user, and I can go to the profile. The ushering is exactly the same. I can request an assignment. All of that's exactly the same. Let me go down to this ushering screen here, and you'll notice that there's one difference. When you are a venue coordinator, a button will appear on this screen, which is Production Admin. And I can then see the productions at the venue or venues that I'm administering. And as a venue coordinator, I can also create new productions. So when I go here and click search, I'm only going to see one production because I happen to be configured as a coordinator for the Windy City Playhouse, and this is the only production that's available. Now, when I click on venue search, I only see those venues for which I am a coordinator. So I can't, I mean, I might be managing 20 productions at once across 3 venues, but I'm only going to see those venues, and I could, zero in on the productions at Straw Dog or at Metropolis, and it would filter that list for me. And remember also, you can also filter by future dates, because after a year or a couple of years, if you don't filter by date, you're going to see every production at those venues that you've ever done since the system was deployed. So we give you a shortcut here that allows you to filter just on future dates very quickly, so you can only, you don't see any of the past productions that you managed. Of course, you can filter on status and company. You can filter on category as well. And if you want to search for a particular title, I could type in any part of that title and filter by that as well. Now, over on the right-hand side, I have a couple of additional options here. I can view the details about my venues. So if I click here, I will see my 3 venues. And when I select one of them, I see all of the details about that venue. And I also see a list of the contacts that have been entered into the system for that venue. And you might see, you'll see a name and a title. And if you click on the name, you'll get their email address and their phone number. And email address, of course, is a link as well. So a particular venue might have half a dozen contacts. There's the audience manager, the business manager, the, I don't know, the director or the dance coordinator or back of house, whatever. Whatever contacts have been added. And certainly one of the things that the administrators will be doing, that there's a whole slew of screens that allow the Saints to manage this module behind the scenes. We're not going to look at those. But the administrators of this module will certainly want to collect and enter a complete list of contacts for each of your venues. So if you haven't provided those, or if they don't have them, it would be a good idea to pass that information on so it can be entered by the administrators into the system. I can also view information about my companies. Now, in this case, I'm looking at the venue as well. I think this is probably supposed to show companies. I need to check with the developers exactly what's going on. But you should have the ability here to see a list of companies that are using your venues. Or if you're a company coordinator, you'd see only your companies. The system behaves slightly differently in each case. And to be able to see the contacts associated with those companies. So I'll check with the developers and see how that's supposed to work. Now, there will be reports available. That's one of the other things that's not done yet. For now, you'll just get a message to say reports are not yet available. And then the last thing is a button here that allows me to add a production. So let's do that. I'm going to create a production. And in this case, I'm a venue coordinator. This is grayed out because I'm a venue coordinator. And the production is going to see, let's say, Pirates of Penzance. And it's going to be at Metropolis. And here I see a full list of companies that happen to be available. So let's do that particular one. Now the category is a musical. The status is pending because I'm still building it. Wonderful kids adapted show of this classic musical. And the start date will be, I don't know, let's make up a date, 10/10/2018. And the finish date will be 11/15/2018. The release date is when the production would typically available for people to start their ushering assignments. So let's call that 10/1/2018. We can leave, the duration is the length of the production. So I'll say 90 minutes. The report time is 60 minutes prior. The dress code is, we'll call that business casual. And how many ushers are typically required for this particular production? We'll leave that at 4. And then I can write some notes here. Lots of kids. And I'll click Save. So now I've created a new production, and you can see it down here in the list. There's the Pirates of Penzance and all of the details that I mentioned. And so far we have 0 performances, and also the production has not yet been approved. Now there is a process by which the administrators within the Saints and the people who coordinate the whole ushering process have to review productions and approve them. And so there's a separate screen where they will see that and be able to approve that production. If there's any details that need to be edited, you click this edit icon here. And I should point out that next to the word maintain, there is an icon which gives you a legend of all of these all of these icons, tells you what they mean. Now the second icon is the one that allows you to enter the performances. And so we go to this screen where we can start entering performances for the Pirates of Penzance. And in this case, there are no performances. So I'm going to create a performance, and it gives me by default the first date. And so the curtain time in this case will be 4 p.m. The time slot is, well, let's call this a matinee, and we'll change it to 2 p.m. The performance status is scheduled. It picks up the ushers required and the dress code from the production. The performance type is, we'll call this a preview. And you can see the different performance types. There are various special types, and there's also regular for just, once the production is underway. Most of these will be regular performances. And should this be visible and you want to allow non-members to be able to participate in this performance, in this case I'll say no. And is it urgent? So if we're rolling along and now you suddenly have performances where you're not able to find ushers, you can set an urgent flag later on, and you know, to try to encourage saints to actually sign up. Now 10/10 happens to be a Wednesday, so let's save this. And now you can see that we have one performance listed here. I can edit that performance if I want to, and it'll just bring up that screen that we just looked at. I can also view the number of the ushers. So in this case, I come to a screen that shows me 4 slots. Now you'll notice there's no add button. You don't add additional slots. The way you do that is by going to the previous screen and specifying how many ushers you need for this performance. If somebody applied to for this ushering assignment, then they would be listed here, and you'd have an icon that would allow you to approve that assignment. If you have 3 or 4 of them, you can approve all of them at once if you want. You can also manually assign a member or a non-member if you're working the performance and you speak to your regular stable of people that step in if you're under, you know, if you're in a crunch, and they say, yes, I'll do it, you can manually assign somebody. Now, the status here will only show people who've requested an assignment and who've been approved. It may also show people who've requested cancellation. If for some reason somebody can't do an assignment, they can go through the system and request cancellation. Down in this second grid here, you'll actually see a number of other statuses, people who requested whose cancellation was approved, maybe their application to Usher was declined for some reason, and there's a couple of other status values that are available here, and they will show down at the bottom, and you can keep track of those as well. Now, there's also a very nice copy function. So in this case, we've created a Wednesday performance, and I have the ability to make one copy, and I'm going to copy a single performance, and it basically takes this one performance and makes one copy, and that's a Thursday matinee. Let's, sorry, wrong screen. Let's click on the copy icon as well, and I can also make multiple copies. Now, there's a couple of options here that you probably will never use, but let's have a quick look at these. I can make daily copies every second day ending after 10 occurrences, and when I click copy, the system has now made every second day from the 10th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 18th, 20th, 22. I could also, if this was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, I could also make multiple copies on a weekly basis. So starting on the 14th, on Sunday, and I want to make copy, 5 copies. And when I make those copies, there's another one on the 14th, there's one on the 21st right here, there's one on the 28th, and there's one on the 11th. Now, if it turns out that there is no performance on the 28th, well, it's easy enough to delete that performance. And if it turns out one of these is the, the press preview, and you need a couple of extra ushers, whoops, wrong screen, I can go into the edit screen and change the number of ushers to 5 and click save. And now for this particular performance right here, I have 5 ushers instead of 4. So the idea is that if you create a production and you then create one performance, you can use the copy functions to very quickly generate multiple performances. And then if some of them need to be tweaked, you can do that. You can do that as well. So if you happen to be ushering for a production that has that runs for 8 weeks and always has a Saturday matinee, a Sunday night, a Saturday night, and a Sunday matinee, you can create one of them, make a couple of single copies, and then make multiple copies for 8 weeks. And before you know it, you've got 24 performances that have been created and are in the system ready to accept ushering assignments. I'm going to delete this one that's the duplicate on the 14th. And again, we can go in and tweak these individually. This one's no longer a preview performance. This is the opening performance, and I can save that. And this one's a regular performance. I can save that. So you really have the ability to make whatever changes you need. Let me just do that again. If I select regular and click save, there it is. There's the regular. Okay. Oops. Sorry, not sure where that came from. Let me hide that. Okay. And so we went back to the production admin screen, and really those are the 3 screens that you work with as a coordinator. Your productions administration screen, where you can manage the details of the productions. Then the performances screen, where you drill down and you look at the performances. And then this next one here, where you drill down and you look at the ushering assignments. Now let's log out again. And I'm going to log back in as my test user. Oops. Now I will go to ushering, and I'm looking for an ushering assignment. So I type in pirate, and it's not visible because it hasn't been approved yet. Tell you what, while I'm doing this, Frank, if you're listening, perhaps if you can log in, and since you're an administrator, and approve the Pirates of Penzance, we'll be able to look at it. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to log in as a different user while Frank's doing that. I'm going to log in as C user. Now, C user is a company coordinator. And if I click on ushering as a company coordinator, I also get the productions administration screen. But here, I have the ability to filter on any venue. And as you can see, the Saints have already loaded a huge raft of venues into the system. One of the things that you'll notice is that a venue is a specific space within a theater or a location. So when we look at Chicago Shakes, Courtyard, the Yard, and Upstairs are each considered to be separate venues. There are some situations where there are different Saints coordinators who manage productions at each venue. And so after a lot of discussion, we jointly decided that we would treat different production spaces as separate venues, even if they're at the same location. Okay, but in this case, I'm a company coordinator, and what I should see here are only the companies that I'm configured as a coordinator. I'm not sure why it showed me everyone. But here, when I add a production, in this case, it's grayed out as company, and I only get the companies that I'm a coordinator of, but now I get the full list of venues. So Chicago Dramatists may be doing their next production in Pierce Hall of the Chicago Temple, and so I can select any venue for this particular production that, where I'm the coordinator for Chicago Dramatists. Otherwise, everything else behaves exactly the same way. I specify all the details of the production, Oh, and by the way, when you see a red dot next to a field, it means that that field is required. So you have to enter a value into that field. And now, once I've created the production, I can drill down, create performances for that production. There might be 1, there might be 20, there might be 50. And then I can manage all of those details. So let me just check here. And Frank, can you just wave if that production's been approved? It has, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna log out and log in again as T-user. And when I click login, I'm gonna go back to the ushering screen, and I'll select Pirate. And when I click search, I do not see my production. Why don't I see it there? Every time we do a demo like this or one of these sorts of webinars, there's always going to be a glitch of one kind or another. And of course, this is beta test software. We're not quite finished yet. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll give you a peek behind the curtains. I'm going to log in as the administrator, and I'll go to the control panel and go to the ushering module. And when I click on Pirate, there's my Pirates of Penzance. And when I go to the edit, you can see it's basically the same screen. It has a few additional fields, and this one has been approved. I know what the problem is. None of the performances have been opened up. No, they're visible. Let's see here. Let me just have a quick look at this. It's visible. Let's click save. So even though I'm logged in as an administrator, I should be able to go to my ushering screen. Select Pirates. There it is. So Pirates of Penzance appeared. Let me try it again as T-user. And I'll go down to the ushering screen. Let's try this again. Pirates. There's my Pirates of Penzance. May have just been a caching issue. So I select this particular one, and I see the details that we entered of the location. There's the Pirates of Penzance, and I can see all of the different performances that are listed, and I can filter by different performances. So for example, if I want only regular performances and click search, now it shows me only a regular performance. I'm going to request this one for myself only and click save. And now it shows that I've been assigned to that performance. When I go to my profile screen and look at ushering, it shows for my upcoming performances, here's the Pirates of Penzance at Metropolis, and the status is requested. Now that's important because it has not yet been approved. So what I'm going to do is log in as the user, and I'm going to go to my productions. There's Pirates. I'm going to look at performances. And for Ushers field, I have one slot right here for this regular performance. So let's have a look. Here is test user, who is the person I was logged in as. That person is requested. This is when the request was received. And now I have some new icons here. I can approve that ushering assignment, or I can click this button and it will approve everyone that's got the requested status. I can edit the request. Not sure what's going on there with that little pop-up. And I can also delete the request. In this case, I'm going to approve it. And now the status changes to approved. Yeah, I'm not sure what this icon is doing. I'll have to check with the developers. And I also have the ability to resend the confirmation email. So if the usher calls you or emails you and says, you know, can you resend me the details for my ushering assignment, Pirates of Penzance on 10/14, you can come in here and click that icon. Or if there's multiple people, you can just click this icon and it will resend the emails for everyone. Now, I could also delete that person. And if I click OK, it removes them. And it should actually put them down in this lower grid here to say that they were removed for some reason. I'm not sure why it didn't do that. So again, that's something we'll have to check into. Okay, so it's about 1:40, and I think at this point I've shown you everything that I wanted to show. And certainly we found a few glitches, and I'll sit down with the developers after this webinar and we'll go through those glitches and make sure that all of that's cleaned up. So what I'm going to do right now is turn off sharing, and we'll come back. Let's see the questions that we have. So we have a question from Judd. I have several groups of 3 or 4 who volunteer together. Do they have to be split into groups of only 2? I believe right now it's been implemented as 2. So let me make a note of this, and I'll discuss that with the committee. And if we need to support, you know, more than one, we can talk about adding that functionality. Next question from Kay, where is the venue admin button? Kay, the way the system has been implemented right now, those people who have administrative rights over all of the Saints website or just this module are the ones who update information about venues. The venue coordinators, if there are changes or people that you need to add, you send that information to the administrators and they will do the updates. If you're a venue coordinator or a company coordinator, you have read-only access to that information. Okay, so the next question is, if the spotlight is going away, how do members know what's available? Well, the simple answer is they log into the website on a regular basis and they go to the screen that I showed you where they can search for productions. So if someone says, you know, I'd like to usher in a couple of weeks, Northwest Suburbs sometime over the weekend, they can go and search for a production, or they can search by title if it's one that they're interested in. I imagine that the Saints will also put together some kind of email, whether the module will generate it automatically. That may be something we would add in version 2, or whether they would generate it manually initially, that goes out to members and tells them about new productions that have been added. And I'm sure that's something that the Saints is discussing internally. Question from Kay, who approves productions? And again, that is administrators. They want to review all of the information, make sure that the description and all of that is correct. So those people that have admin rights over the whole website or just the ushering module are the ones that will do approvals. Now, I believe that there is an automated email. Let me make a note to verify that. So when you create a production, an email could be sent to an administrator telling them that a production's been created so that they can go in and review it. Let me just make a note of that. Okay. So there's a question from Jay Meyer. Openings are only assigned by invitation. I'm sorry, I don't understand that question.
I'm guessing that if the performance is an opening, like a preview, that people just can't sign up for that. They're going to make the ushers selected explicitly.
Okay, so if we're
That's my
talking about,
guess.
we're not talking about openings in like ushering assignments in general. You're talking about the opening performance. And in that case, you can configure that performance so that it's not available for people to sign up, and then you as the coordinator would work that performance using whatever other means you have, talking to your favorite people that you can trust, and asking them if they want that particular performance.
Now, if that didn't actually answer the question, please jot into the chat window a little more detail. Thank you.
Okay. So next question was, how do we enter if the venue has both matinees and evening performances? And I believe I addressed that. You can take a performance. You can create individual performances, one by one, if there are special ones. Or you can take the first performance that you've created and copy it and then change the parameters. So, what you might do is create a matinee, create an evening, and then use the copy function to just create, the clones of that one. There's a question there, what does the visible flag mean? The visible flag controls if that production and performance are visible to members when they come in and do searching. So you really have explicit control at both the production and performance levels. You could have a production that's visible, but if you're doing all of the performance assignments manually, people can see that the production is there, but they can also see that there are no available slots. Or it means they got in late and they need to get in early next time. Is there an option to indicate a closed performance? This is from Kay. And okay, so Kay, I'm going to ask you whether you mean the performance is closed because there are no more ushering assignments available, or whether the performance is closed because they're not getting enough audience, so they closed it early. When I look at the performance status, I see a canceled option.
Kay, I have unmuted your microphone, so if you want to drill down on this a little bit.
Talking about the opening performance, which you just covered, sort of.
Okay, all right.
Oh, so a closed meaning not an open performance. Got it.
Okay, right. So I think we covered that. A question from Faith, how does an admin know that a show is ready to be approved? And I think we dealt with that already. We're going to make sure that there's an automated email that will go to the appropriate person or people who get notified about. I think that email may be there already in the specification. If it's not, we'll make sure that it's there.
Dan, there's a question that came to me privately that may have been going to the group. It says when the show member is signing up to Usher, it says that the member has been assigned. It says really, but they haven't been approved yet. Should that possibly be changed to submitted?
Yes. No, I noticed that as well, and it's on my bug list.
Good. Thank you.
Hang on one sec. Let me just make a note on that. Okay, good, got it. Okay, question from Lisa. I noticed that none of my music-related venues are listed in the drop-down. Will they be added? And the answer is yes. And you should work with Frank to make sure that those venues are added. How do I request as a user a non-member who has no number? That's actually a really great question, Lisa, and I didn't cover that. So let me show you how we do that. Let's turn sharing back on again. And we'll go back to the share screen. Now I'm looking at Again, the Pirates of Penzance performances. And I'm going to go to this performance here on 10/16. And we're going to change that performance. It's not a preview anymore. It's a regular. And we're going to allow non-members to sign up for that performance. And when I click Save, let's go to that performance. And it was the 16th, as I recall. Yep. So I'm here as Pirates, and I can see all of the performances. And when I request, you'll notice now that there's a new radio button here. It says me plus another member, and me plus a non-member. And when I select that option, the system automatically prompts for the first name, last name, the phone number, and the email address. All of those are required because as the coordinator, you need to know who's coming. You need to know what their phone number is if there's an issue. And the system needs to have an email address so that confirmation emails can be sent to that person so that they know about their assignments. The other reason for collecting all of this information is that one of the things the system is going to do, and this is, I believe, configurable. I'm not sure if it's at the module level or at the venue level, but there is a process that we're building right now where X number of days before each performance, like 3 days before the performance, the system will send to the front of house manager or the business manager or whoever is designated a list of people who are signed up for that performance. So the people at the venue will automatically get an email from the system showing for the performance on 10/16 at 2 p.m. You need 4 ushers, and here are the names, the phone number, and the email address of each of those 4 people. And that will be sent out automatically, and I believe it can be sent to multiple people within the venue or within the company. So all of that is built in and will be happening automatically as well. And so it's one of the reasons why we need to collect this information. Now, entering multiple non-members, we're going to have to think for a while about how we would squeeze that in. It may be that in version 1, we only support, 2 people at once, and maybe a future version, version 2 next year, would support 3 or 4 people. But we'll have to, I'll discuss that with the committee, and we'll work out how to solve that problem. Okay. Let's stop sharing and get back to our list of questions. Okay. One venue only needs 2 ushers. This is from Lisa, but is happy to have more. How should that be shown? Will it impact the venue's statistics? The system right now has not been designed to handle required and optional ushers. That could possibly be a version 2 feature. We want to be careful not to add too many versions right now, too many enhancements right now, because it's important that we get this module deployed. Get the problems fixed, get everything finished and deployed so that people can start using it. And then, almost certainly there'll be a version 2 next year where we add some additional functionality. And maybe part of that would be, required ushers and optional ushers. Right now, Lisa, my suggestion would be that, if they can accommodate 4 ushers, then enter 4, and as you're managing that production or that venue, that once you have 2, that you're all set, and you don't need to worry about finding ushers for the others. Can a coordinator limit a production to only certain regular volunteers as opposed to the general membership? Right now, aside from the earlies process, which the system is being built to handle, if you don't want to open a production to the full membership, but only to your, let's call them your preferred list of trusted people, then you would have to manage assigning those people manually. There's no way right now for a coordinator to create a preferred list of members. And again, maybe that would be a version 2 enhancement, something that that you'd have to discuss with Frank and his team. Okay, so we dealt with Pat's question. Another question from Kay: are the admins the board members? The answer is no. The admins are a group of people appointed by the Saints who have admin rights over the whole website, or who have admin rights over this particular module. And it's up to the Saints to decide who those people are. Next question from Kay: how do comments get added? We're recording, obviously, the whole webinar. We're also going to get a transcript of the chat, and then afterwards, Frank and I and anyone else on the committee will sit down and we'll decide, you know, how we handle some of these suggestions. Question from Judd: when an ushering request is approved, is there a confirmation email automatically sent? The answer is absolutely yes. Suggestion from Laurie: can you add another column showing the day as well as the date? That is an excellent suggestion, Laurie, and I will write it down. Show day of week alongside the date. Okay. Opening performance from Kay. Question non-visible from Chris. Question from Kay: who is speaking? Well, I'm Dan. I'm one of the partners here at ClubExpress, and I also coordinate a lot of the custom development that's done here. And so I worked with Frank and Marvin, and there was a committee, you know, a sort of an ushering technology committee, and we put the specification together, and then I'm the liaison between the Saints and the development team that's actually built this functionality. Question from Judd: will the system keep stats that will eliminate our need to report that at the end of the year? The answer is yes, but right now those reports have not yet been built. You know, to a certain degree, I think the Saints wants to see how the system is used and you know, how it works, and all of the data is there behind the scenes. And so once it's been in use for a while, it'll be very easy to create the sort of reports that the board of directors and the coordinator management committee, you know, needs to see. Question from Dale: my venue requires that non-members be able to usher. As a result, they can sign up directly, not with a member. Will that be addressed, or will I need to enter manually? Right now, Dale, you would need to enter those people manually. The ushering module will not be made visible on the public side of the website, because the Saints have very strict requirements in terms of release agreements, and you know, people have to sign certain things in order to be able to usher. And my understanding is that, well, the way we built it is that a non-member can come with a member, but if you want to be able to add non-members, you have to do that manually right now. Question from Jay Meyer: how, again, does the theater get notified? And the answer is that there will be an automated email generated by the system to one or more people within the theater who have said they need to receive the list of ushers for each performance. How will the module work if venue admins sign up non-members to shows? For example, I currently share a Google Doc with the house manager. Well, as we said earlier, you would add those non-members to the screen, and when you add them, you would add first name, last name, phone number, and email address. You have to have those, and then they would get a confirmation email, and then the system will send the house manager a confirmation email a few days before the performance, and I think you can resend that email at any time if the house manager says send it again, with the list of people who have been assigned to each performance. Question from Marvin about what actually gets sent to the venues, and Marvin, you certainly may be right. Obviously, we can review that, as part of the testing phase once that functionality has been written. The developer's working on that right now. Question from Chris. Oh, okay, just a back and forth there. And from Fireside. Can I get a master list of the entire production run showing the ushers assigned for each date? And I guess that's someone named Bill. And the answer is yes, there will be a report available at the production level that will show you each performance and the ushers assigned to each performance. That's certainly on the report list. So we are at the end of the list of questions, and it's 1 minute before 2. So I think that that timing there worked out pretty well. Again, everyone, this is beta test software. There are definitely a couple of rough spots. Before this is released for production, we will make sure that we get rid of the rough spots, but certainly, if any bugs appear after it's been released, they'll be fixed very quickly. There may be features that we've missed, that the technology committee missed, and certainly we'll talk about those. There may be things we can do now without significantly impacting the schedule, but there may be things that we decide get postponed to version 2 of this module, which would come sometime next year after folks have had a chance to use it for a few months. So wanted to thank everybody for connecting today and participating. Certainly we want to thank Frank and Marvin and everybody on the committee and the Saints for allowing us to build this module for you. I want to thank Alan for his support in helping to run the webinar. And have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll have a recording of this up probably in a day or so you can review it and pass it along to people that weren't able to attend today's session.
Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.